They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
Good morning. We're going to talk about Scream again. I just put my review up for Scream 6, a film I really, really enjoyed. And it's been a long time since we've done a ranking video, and I figured better time, when better to do a ranking video than now. So we're going to do my ranking of the Scream films. I think I did this years ago, but we've had a couple movies since then. So let's talk about the Scream franchise. Best to worst, worst to best. I'm going to start with my least favorite Scream, work up to my favorite. All right, coming in at number 6, my least favorite Scream movie is Scream 3, which this is a 5-disc set, but I own the other movies in 4K. So, yeah, Scream 3, that is my least favorite by a wide margin. Now, a good friend of mine, Wesley, from Thinking Arts Entertainment, recently commented on one of my Instagram posts, said he feels Scream 3 is underrated. I kind of agree with him. I don't think Scream 3 is a terrible movie, but I just think the quality is so below the other 5 films in the franchise that for me, it's by far the worst film in the franchise. I think it suffers from a few different things. Number one, Kevin Williamson was not available to work on this. He was Teaching Mrs. Tingle at the time. So the film was written by Aaron Kruger, who is a complete hack writer. If you're not familiar with him, he wrote most of the Transformers sequels. Yes, the Transformers sequels that just about everybody hates were written by the same guy who wrote Scream 3. So make of that what you will. He also wrote Top Gun Maverick, though, which is one of the most popular films of the year. I hear his script was heavily rewritten. I don't quote me on that. I don't know for sure. But I am not an Aaron Kruger fan. I am not an Aaron Kruger fan. And he wrote Scream 3, my least favorite. It also suffered from the fact that the ending leaked. And they changed the ending. And it was a quickly rewritten ending. Apparently the ending of Scream 3 was originally supposed to include the character of Stu Macher from Scream 1 being the one who orchestrated everything from his prison cell. A pretty interesting concept that would have brought everything back to the first film. Bringing one of the killers back from the first film would have really, really tied up the trilogy nicely, because Scream was originally intended to be a trilogy. It was, at the time, Kevin Williamson called it the Star Wars trilogy of horror. So I think that bringing back that original killer would have been very, very a nice way to tie up the franchise. And it didn't happen. We got a rewritten ending, a hastily rewritten finale to reveal a new killer, since that original ending leaked. And I think the film is weaker for it. So Scream 3 is by far my least favorite in the franchise. It's not even close. So the next 5 films are all much higher up in my estimation. We're going to talk about my number 5 now. The difference in quality between my number 5 and my number 6 is light years. And it's going to sound like I'm saying this is the second worst Scream movie, but don't think I'm saying this is a bad movie. I like this movie. I'm just saying I like the others a little more. All right, look, I'm going to be honest. I had a real hard time deciding what gets the number 5 spot, because there's 2 movies in the franchise that are so close in my estimation that which is better, it's really tough. I eventually chose Scream 5, last year's Scream 5. This is my number 5. I'll be honest, my number 4 could have been my number 5. My number 5 could have been my number 4. You know, if you want to save your sanity, say 4 and 5 are tied. My number 4 and my number 5 are kind of tied in quality. I think they're both so good, I have trouble picking a favorite between the two. But I'm going Scream 5, last year's Scream 5, as my number 5. But it could have also just as easily been my number 4 pick. My number 4 pick, Scream 4. Scream 4 and Scream 5, these are both so good. And they're more or less tied in my mind. it's very arbitrary deciding which one is 4 and which one is 5. I'm putting 5 at 5 and 4 at 4, but it could have gone either way. These films are interesting because it was originally intended to be a trilogy. The Star Wars Trilogy of Horror is what Kevin Williamson originally called it. And Scream 4 was the first one to come back and break the trilogy and turn it into something bigger. This movie bombed at the box office in 2011, which made me think we'll probably never see another Scream movie because apparently the audience isn't there for Scream anymore. But then over a decade later, Scream 5 came out and was huge. Why was Scream 5 huge when Scream 4 wasn't? I have no idea, because they're both really good movies. This is the final film that was directed by Wes Craven in the franchise. He made a movie called My Soul to Take, I think like a year later or the next year or something like that. So it's not Wes Craven's last movie, but it's his last Scream movie, and it's one of his last movies. This is the film that introduces Hay Pants as Kirby Reed, a character she would reprise in Scream 6. It's the film that introduces Marley Shelton as Judy Hicks, a character she would reprise in Scream 5. So as much as this film bombed at the box office, it is an important part of the Scream franchise because it brought in some characters who then went on to become legacy characters in future sequels. So yes, I highly recommend Scream 4. If you haven't seen Scream 4, check out Scream 4. I know you probably didn't see it at the box office because the box office indicates not a lot of you went to see it at the box office. I did. I saw it more than once. I saw this more than once in the theater, but a lot of you didn't, and the box office numbers show it. If you haven't seen Scream 4, check it out. You can get it on Blu-ray. Though I think Jacob, my old podcast co-host Jacob, J2H, I think he told me this is out of print, if I'm not mistaken. I think he said this might be out of print on Blu-ray. Am I right about that? Did you tell me that, Jacob? I think he told me that. It's also streaming on Paramount Plus. You can watch it on Paramount Plus right now. All right. That brings us to my number 3 pick. My number 3 pick for the Scream franchise. My number 3, I do not have a Blu-ray to show you because it's playing in theaters right now. My number 3 pick is Scream 6. The latest chapter in the franchise, Scream 6. I loved Scream 6. I think it is the best sequel to Scream since 1997. With only two films to go, I think you can guess what my favorite sequel to Scream is. But Scream 6 is my second favorite sequel to Scream. I absolutely loved Scream 6. I can't wait to see it again. Everything from the reveal of who the killer is, which kept me guessing the entire film. The opening kill, something happens that has never happened in a Scream movie that told me right off the bat, we are looking at something different here. I can't recommend Scream 6 enough. If you haven't seen Scream 6 yet, go check out Scream 6. It is great. And the new cast, Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega, they're terrific. They're terrific. You won't even miss Sidney Prescott. You won't miss her. The film doesn't need her. It's that good. It is that good. And a big, in my review of Scream 4 or Scream 6, which was posted yesterday, I failed to mention the directors, whose names I always forget. I always just call them Radio Silence, because together they call themselves Radio Silence. But I wrote their names down because I can't remember. And it's a shame because they're such good directors. They are so good. I need to commit their names to memory. Tyler Gillett and Matt Bettinelli-Olpin. Matt Bettinelli-Olpin, Tyler Gillett, collectively known as Radio Silence. They do an excellent job on Scream 6, as they did on Scream 5, but man, with Scream 6, they really brought it. So my number 3 is Scream 6. My number 2 greatest Scream movie of all time, the original 1996 Scream. This is a film that kind of changed the genre. There were a million Scream copycat films after this came out. Everyone tried to get on that Scream bandwagon when Scream came out, with everything from I Know What You Did Last Summer, which was also written by Kevin Williamson, to even the Halloween franchise and Chucky and everyone. They all kind of came back. The horror genre was dead, and Scream brought it back. This was a very revolutionary film. From the opening scene with Drew Barrymore It was there she is right there. You remember, we all thought she was going to be the star of the film. She was all over the posters. She was so heavily promoted as a Drew Barrymore movie, and then she dies in the opening. It was nobody knew what to expect from this film. This is a film that did not open big because the horror genre was kind of dead at the time. It did not open big, but word of mouth got out, and this film ended up like going to #1 at the box office in its subsequent weeks, something that doesn't happen very often. It started out low and built word of mouth and became bigger as it went on. That doesn't happen very often. This is a genre changer. This was a game-changing film in 1996. I love this movie, and I can't believe it's been almost 30 years. I was watching it the other day and I'm like, 27 years. Has it really been that long? Yeah, this is a 27-year-old movie. Makes me feel old. I had hair when I saw this movie. Love this movie. This is my number 2. And my number 1 choice for the best film in the Scream franchise is the original sequel, 1997's Scream 2. There is some real movie magic in this film. I just saw it on the big screen for its 25th anniversary this past year. Fathom Events showed it back on the big screen. It's now on 4K disc, which you can get wherever physical media is sold. This was a film that a lot of people were like, well, how are you going to do a sequel to Scream? Scream, the villains are not supernatural. They're dead at the end. What are you going to do? You can't bring the killers back. Are we going to have copycat killers? Is that going to work? Is the audience going to go for that? Had this film not worked, I don't think you'd have a Scream 6. I don't think you'd have a Scream 3. I think this film could have killed the franchise dead if it didn't work. And it worked, and it worked beautifully. The reveal of the killer, it has my favorite killer reveals of any of the Scream movies. And it has a nice little throwback to another classic horror franchise, Friday the 13th. Because in the spoiler alert for a film that's 25 years old, frankly, you should have seen this by now. If I'm spoiling this for you, I don't know what to tell you. It's been 25 years. But the killer in this is the mother of the killer in this. The killer in this's mom comes back for revenge in this one, which is a really cool throwback to Friday the 13th, where the reverse happened. The mother was the killer. She gets killed, and the son comes back for revenge. Mrs. Voorhees, then Jason. This time we get Billy Loomis, then Billy Loomis's mother. So we get a reverse Friday the 13th, which in a franchise which winks at the audience and acknowledges the history of horror films, that's a cool little twist. That's a cool little wink to the horror genre's history. I adore Scream 2, my favorite film in the franchise. So let's review my top 6. At number 6, we have Scream 3. At number 5, we have Scream 5. At number 4, we have Scream 4. But Scream 5 and Scream 4 are basically tied in my estimation. They're pretty interchangeable. Number 3, we have Scream 6, the latest film in the franchise. Go check it out. It is wonderful. Number 2, the original Scream. And number 1, Scream 2. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Come back. We're going to do this again with the Creed and Rocky movies. We're gonna do the Rocky franchise, all 9 films. So check that out. All right, guys. Keep wearing those pajamas.
Keep wearing those pajamas with the plastic feet. Keep wearing those pajamas. Tell everyone you meet. Keep wearing those pajamas with the back door flap. Keep wearing those pajamas. Don't open, it's a trap. Oh no, it's a trap. Some people call them PJs, some people call them jammies. They can come embroidered with big money and no whammies. They can have 100 tiny commander Adamas, but no matter how they look, just keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now we're having fun. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now the song is done.